Something happened to you years ago, maybe a decade, maybe longer. You said something at a party that landed wrong. You laughed at a joke nobody else laughed at. You called a teacher mom in front of the whole class. You sent a message to the wrong person. Something small, something that genuinely does not matter anymore to anyone involved, possibly including the person it happened to. Your brain has not let it go. It replays it, unprompted, at 2 a.m., in the shower, in the middle of a perfectly good Tuesday. It doesn't ask your permission. It just starts the tape. And when it does, your body responds the same way it responds to actual danger. Heart rate up, chest tight, a flash of heat across your face that you feel even when you're alone in a room with nobody watching. You didn't choose any of that, and there is a precise biological reason it keeps happening. Most people assume this is a flaw, a quirk of anxious brains, an unfortunate tendency in people who overthink, something to manage or medicate or talk yourself out of in therapy. That is not what it is. What it actually is has a name. Researchers call it the involuntary autobiographical memory system, and it doesn't malfunction. It runs exactly as designed. The problem is what it was designed for. In 2017, a team at Purdue University, led by psychologist Kipling published a synthesis of 2 decades of research on social pain. The finding was stark. Social rejection and exclusion activate the same neural regions as physical injury. Not similar regions, the same ones. The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the area that processes the distress component of physical pain, responds identically to being left out of a conversation and being burned. Your brain does not distinguish between a broken arm and a broken social bond. It files them in the same drawer. But here is where it gets more specific. In 2009, researchers at the University of Michigan used fMRI imaging to study what happens when people recall embarrassing memories versus neutral ones. The embarrassing memory reliably reactivated not just emotional centers, but the brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, at levels comparable to processing a current threat. Not a memory of a threat, a current one. When your brain replays that moment from 8 years ago, it is not reminiscing, it is running an active threat assessment on something it has categorized as unresolved danger. The question is why it ever got categorized that way in the first place. Go back 150,000 years. A single human being, alone, is not a predator. It is a medium-sized, slow, nearly blind in the dark, very easy to catch meal. Everything changes inside a group. Fire, coordinated hunting, someone watching while you sleep. The group is not a social preference, it is the entire survival strategy. And the group has rules, unspoken ones, enforced constantly through social feedback. Eye contact held too long, a status claim made in front of the wrong person, a joke that signals you don't understand how things work here. These micro-violations were not embarrassing, they were dangerous. They were the early signals that could lead to a change in your standing, in the allocation of food, in whether people positioned themselves near you or away from you when something was coming through the tall grass. Being cast out of a group 150,000 years ago did not mean finding new friends. It meant dying alone before the week was out. So the brain built a system, a real-time monitor that tracked every social interaction for signals of threat to your standing. Scientists call it the sociometer, and it does not just flag threats in the present, it stores them, it reviews them, it replays the close calls, the misreadings, the moments where the feedback from the people around you went cold, not to torture you, but to prevent you from making the same mistake again. The involuntary replay is a training loop. Your brain is trying to protect you from the tribe. In 2005, a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology asked participants to recall their most embarrassing memories and rate how much they believed other people still thought about those moments. Then, the researchers contacted the other people, the actual witnesses, and asked them. The gap was striking. Participants consistently believed their embarrassing moment occupied far more of other people's mental space than it actually did. The researchers named this the spotlight effect. We assume a beam of attention is fixed on our worst moments because our own attention is fixed on them. The audience moved on within minutes. The brain of the person who experienced it did not. Because the audience's judgment was never the point. The point was the internal record. The brain wasn't storing the memory for their benefit. It was storing it for yours. A detailed case file on the specific social context, the specific misstep, the specific signals that preceded the discomfort, so that the next time a situation with similar parameters began to develop, you would know. Earlier, faster, before the damage was done. There is a version of this explanation that resolves cleanly. Ancient threat system, modern misfire, end of story. But the researchers who have studied social pain most carefully are not entirely comfortable with that framing. Because the system does not just replay the failures, it replays the near misses. The moments where you almost said the wrong thing and caught yourself. The times you read a room correctly and adjusted. The sociometer is not simply a punishment mechanism. It appears to be something closer to a learning architecture, continuously refining a model of how social reality works so you can navigate it more accurately next time. What nobody has fully explained is why the system stays so activated in environments where the original stakes no longer apply. Modern humans are not one social rejection from starvation. The group dynamic that made these calculations life or death has not existed for thousands of years. And yet the system runs at the same intensity, flagging the same signals, replaying the same moments, as if the leopard is still out there and the tribe is still the only thing standing between you and it. The researchers who study this most carefully do not have a clean answer for why the update never came. So here is what the science actually tells you. That memory that replays without permission, the one from years ago that still lands with the same physical weight it did when it happened, is not evidence of damage. It is evidence of a system that treated your social standing as survival critical, encoded the risk, and has never stopped trying to make sure you don't repeat it. Your brain is not broken. It is thorough. It is running protection protocols calibrated for a world where every social misstep carried genuine cost. A world where the people in that room could decide in the next few days whether you were in or out. That world is gone. The system didn't get the memo. So the next time the tape starts praying, the 3 a.m. replay of the thing you said 6 years ago at a dinner party to a person you will never see again, your face flushing in an empty room, your body responding like it is happening right now, that is not weakness. That is not anxiety. That is not something you need to fix. That is a 150,000-year-old system doing exactly what it was built to do. It just doesn't know the tribe disbanded. It doesn't know you survived. It is still out there in the tall grass, watching, protecting, making sure you never make that mistake again. It never stopped looking out for you. It just doesn't know the danger past.